Welcome to Education in Focus. I'm your host, Eliana Kernodle. A lawsuit filed last week against the Evanston Skokie School District in Evanston, Illinois, alleges the school separated students and teachers by race. Joining me to discuss this is Chalkboard News editor Brendan Clary. Brendan, who brought this lawsuit and what are the claims they're making?
Yeah, this is brought by Stacy Deemar, who is a part-time drama teacher at the Evanston Skokie School District 65 there. And basically what the complaint says is that Deemar is one of the many victims of District 65's practice of promoting divisive racial ideologies that foster animus in the name of equity. That's directly from the lawsuit there, the complaint. And essentially saying that in pursuit of some of these equity policies that the district has in place, it is hyper-focused on race to the point of even segregating teachers and students into certain groups by race and making race sort of the central topic in a lot of different kinds of discussions and even into some of the classroom work that students are doing. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what it's alleging and saying in pursuit of this equity policy, it's making students and staff hyper-focused on race and even separating students into what are called affinity groups. And so that would be, students of a specific race to talk about certain issues or to focus on them. And the same thing with staff for different trainings about how to be anti-racist, separating white teachers into those groups to talk about certain things, and that they won't talk to other teachers who are of a different race about those issues.
And what does the school district say about its policies?
Yeah, so the school district says that it's focused on equity and trying to find these practices, policies, and institutional barriers, including institutional racism and privilege, which perpetuate opportunity and achievement gaps. Basically trying to root out some of these, as they would say, like root causes of inequality in things that would maybe keep one student down, but allow another student to achieve. And so they would say, okay, there we have a culture that has a lot of systemic racism in it, and how do we set up students for success? And in that view, I think that they say, prioritizing some students over other students is not inequality, it's equity. So what you're trying to do is just help all students get to the same, finish line at the same time. And so that might mean specific targeting of resources or different kinds of groups, again, these affinity groups for some sets of students and not others, because some sets of students need more help than others. And so the mindset there from the school district and others who are proponents of this equity mindset and a lot of these equity frameworks are thinking about how do you take resources, usually in this case, if you're a public school, it's taxpayer funded resources, and putting them towards students who have the most need. And with this, the District 65 is also very clear about some of the reasons for that need, and they see it as systemic racism and sort of this perpetual, through a lot of different kinds of factors, that there's been these systems of harm that have kept people of color oppressed and basically pushed down, and that we need to do everything we can to help them get ahead.
And before filing this lawsuit, Deemar went to the Department of Education, the Office of Civil Rights. How did they respond to her complaint?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting aspect of the case. So the Department of Education has, it's like its enforcement arm. It's called the Office of Civil Rights, and they investigate and they can come to judgments about different violations of law that they find. And I've written about them in terms of the book ban, content moderation debates that I've written about quite extensively. And essentially they can go in and see if any laws are broken, Title IX, Title VI, different kinds of federal laws that have that, funding mechanism tied to them. And they basically can say, well, we'll hold federal funds unless you're compliant. And then they'll usually make school districts say, like, sign a letter of compliance. And what they found, so Deemar said, this is what's going on. This is my complaint. And they investigated it. And I believe it took 18 months. It was an 18-month investigation. And they found that the school district did violate Title VI of the Civil Rights Act by separating students and separating teachers based on race and having these different kinds of trainings, and even including things like, I think they're called privilege walks, and different sorts of things like that. And basically they said, you have to address these, and they went back and forth with the school district about, do you see anything that's wrong? And that's typical stuff of trying to get to that place where a school district is going to be in compliance. But then, and this is kind of the weird turn there, is that when President Joe Biden took office in January of 2021 after the election, the letter disappeared. So the letter of finding saying, hey, you violated the law, just was withdrawn, but nobody really said anything. And ever since then, it's been a kind of a mystery about exactly why and what happened. And reporters have asked, and even the Southeastern Legal Foundation, who's helping Stacy Deemar bring this case, has asked for more information, more clarity, and the Department of Education has just said, sorry, this is an open investigation still. We reopened it. And so even now, several years later, there's still no clarity on what exactly happened. But the school district said, and this is very interesting, the school district said to Fox News, who was covering this back in 2021 in March, the school district said that this was related to President Joe Biden's equity executive order. So it seems pretty clear that this withdrawing it is sort of a recognition that, maybe this does not violate the law in the eyes of the Biden-Harris Department of Education, Biden-Harris administration. And so it's a very interesting sort of microcosm of the larger picture about, presidents and equity and some of the best ways to handle it.
And what is Deemar seeking in this lawsuit?
Yeah, basically, she's seeking $1 in damages. That's sort of nominal damages. You have to have something in there. But basically, what she wants is for this to stop. And I think that's what the Southeastern Legal Foundation's director, Kim Herman, told me, is that she just wants her students to not have to have their rights violated by the school district. That she believes that this is wrong, and that she would like for it to end, and that she would like the court to weigh in and say you can't do this. So I think that's what she's asking for. And I think that you can kind of go after your employer if they're, retaliating against you, and there's different kinds of employment claims and that they're violating the law. You can kind of go after them, but she's not doing that. She's just saying, hey, I want this to stop. And has experienced quite a bit of harassment, it sounds like, from the community in relation to this. People are very upset about it, which is something I've seen before when teachers, file lawsuits in these kinds of cases. It was very contentious, and about some of these contentious policies, it can be can be a lot of upheaval in the school and outside of the school.
Well, Brendan, thank you for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at chalkboardnews.com.